had a mutual friend whose cat, a female cat, was spraying. So she was going to put the cat down and kind of in a last-ditch effort said to Rick and I, do you want this cat? It's one of those things now that, okay, I can't see living without a cat.
Richard rents my upstairs, and we had some cats in the alley, and we took them to a rescue. It was called Animal Relief Fund. And we were kind of wondering what would become of them, so we started to volunteer there, to see if they were going to find a home. That's the organization that was that Feline Rescue started from. And then we kind of thought, well, there was a need for a shelter.
So eventually we found the place over on Charles that kind of became our first home, and we moved from Hennepin Avenue to there. We rented at Charles for I think we were thinking about 10 years, and I think there were a number of bequeathments and such, and we thought it's time to get a building. Claudia Brockhouse was elemental in seeking out a bunch of buildings, and so we came over here and looked at this building, and it was close by. It was in St. Paul where we wanted it, but we did end up buying this building, and this is our new home. I'm thinking about 2007, 2008.
That sounds about right, that we've been here. We had some cats that had feline leukemia, and we had to keep them in the basement over at that Charles shelter. And I think we wanted an area here and for other special needs cats too, but we could have separate rooms for them.
It was, it was just me and my med person, Katie, who we did everything. We cleaned the shelter, we adopted the cats, we gave the cats meds, we did whatever we needed to do. And eventually, more volunteers started coming on board, and we had a really good crew. I think it was primarily Terry St. Sauver who said, okay, you are the interim board for the first year. Rick and I were on that. We were each a half chair, so we had a half vote.
I was a Friday night volunteer for at least 23 years. I know Richard, I think he was on Friday and switched to Wednesday, but he's been involved with the organization just as long. We started out pretty small. I think of it more as like a mom and pop kind of shelter. The first one, they were closed to the public, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Richard was here during
They shut down the
right?
entire shelter. It was 10 or 12 months. Just the cats that were here were the cats that were here. So we'd come in and do our cleaning and socialize a little bit and then go on home. The second time, we kind of knew a little bit more what we were doing, and they were able to isolate a lot of the cats in the back half of this shelter. So the front half was still open. People would come in, and volunteers would come in and clean, and then there weren't a lot of cats here. We weren't taking in as many as we normally did at that time. A few volunteers were done cleaning up here. They would go to the back and don hazmat suits and clean back there, and then out the back door and home to get cleaned up. One week it would be oral meds they would give the cats. The next week they would be bathing the cats, I think just about every day. I mean, it was really labor-intensive work.
Like Richard said, I think we learned from that first time a lot.
Before we closed, I was just still the Wednesday night shift lead. Had, I'm not sure, 10 or 15 volunteers that were pretty awesome. I had a lot of new volunteers that had just started right before the pandemic.
And I was still doing my Friday night shift. We probably had about 10 volunteers coming in, and it's like you still can kind of remember that day when Phil came over and was wondering, how are we going to do this with the physical distancing and wearing masks. I think we pretty much agreed, though, the volunteers on my shift, that we should just close and put the cats into the foster system.
Considering where we started in people's living rooms, again with the coffee and Kahlua, it's pretty amazing to see where we were then, to know where we are now. It's just neat to see that after 20 plus years we're still here.
One good thing, I guess, is during the pandemic we've been able to adopt some cats out. It's nice that people stepped up in the foster system and took in all the cats. But
even though we've changed, as we talked about, from the mom and pop organization to a little more corporate organization, I think there's a niche that we're filling. And I think we're still unique enough that we can, help to continue to fulfill that area of need. Hopefully, a lot of the volunteers will still be on board. But if not, there always seem to be new folk who are willing to step in, and I'm sure there's going to be more cats. Mm-hmm.